it doesn't appear to be in the book, but I wanted to. I guess what really struck me about it and the truthfulness of it is the way she makes fun of him to her friends and
I
mocks him to her
know.
friends, yet is secretly so passionate and wants him so badly. And I've been in situations like that before where you're so overcome with want for this person, all you can do is kind of
Make them smaller.
patronize them,
Yeah,
patronize them
well, she certainly does that.
to other people.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know if you could tell me the theme behind that story, because I was reading some stuff and they said it was about feminism and the patriarchy. I didn't
You
personally
think so?
get that from that story. I got that
Well,
about a human affair,
it's
and
pretty open-ended. The Bluebeard story itself, and just by coincidence, I was asked to do a new libretto translation for the opera called Bluebeard's Castle, which is another take on the Bluebeard story. It's by Bela Bartok. It doesn't end with people being murdered in a room. It ends in a different way. So there are several different takes on it. In one of them, the girl is rescued by um, her brothers. In Angela Carter's rewrite, she's rescued by her mother. Quite a wonderful scene in which the mother grabs a horse and rides up and rescues her. Um, in the Grimm's Fairy Tales version, she rescues herself. She gets out of there by being smart, by being clever. And instead of carrying this egg around, which he gives to these girls and says, carry this, always protect this egg and don't go into the forbidden room. So they have the egg, they open the room wrongly and are horrified by all the dead people, and they drop the egg and then they can't get the blood off it. Sometimes it's a key, but in Grimm's it's an egg. Um, she puts the egg on a shelf first and then opens the room.
right,
It's good advice. I'm just telling you.
yeah,
Put it on the shelf first. So I was always interested in the different interpretations of that story. And I did a long time ago when I was living in Alberta, in Edmonton, and I taught um, probably one of the first creative writing courses. I gave the kids things to write about because they didn't seem to have anything to write about. So I got them to pick tarot cards, and I gave them the Grimm's Bluebeard story and said, write a story from the point of view of any object in it. And one of them wrote a story about the egg, the egg's point of view. One of them wrote a story from the axe's point of view.
nice,
That was interesting. So I had that um, material, as it were. So what can we make of it if what she suspects is that he's got a secret room of some kind? What is in his secret room? And right at the end, I anyway, and probably you, and certainly she, wonders if he's maybe having an affair
yeah,
with one of those people who's at the party. Is that what's in the secret room? So in the opera, which is a very turn of the century, turn from the 19th into the 20th century, people were obsessed with the position of the artist. And the Bluebeard in that story is obviously an artist, a sort of Bela Bartok-like artist. And the Bluebeard figure is somebody who, instead of murdering the wives, he turns them into art objects. Do you know the painter called Klimt? So he was an Austrian painter, Klimt. He paints these absolutely gorgeous festooned, gold, jewels, sparklies, portraits of women. That's what he's doing. And he has one called Judith and Holofernes. Judith is a biblical character who seduces Holofernes, the enemy general, and then cuts off his head. People have been pretty interested in that for a while. I think Martha Graham had a ballet piece about that in which she plays somebody else plays the young Judith, she plays the old Judith, and she also plays the head of Holofernes at the end. Anyway, the character in the Bartók opera is called Judith. Why? My supposition is that's why. He knew about this portrait of Judith and Holofernes. And the Judith character in the opera insists on opening. He's not just got one forbidden room, he's got 7 forbidden rooms. She opens all of them one after the other. And in the last one, there are 3 previous wives that he's collected and turned them into art objects, like the Klimt paintings. One is morning, one is noon, one is evening, and Judith gets to be night. And then his collection is complete, and the stage goes dark. What do you think of that? It's a very powerful opera.
The way you described it sounds very powerful. And that
It
she
is,
gets to be
yes.
night. Yeah.
Oh, she doesn't want to be.
No.
He doesn't want her to be, and she doesn't want to be, but it's a compulsion. He's an artist.
Yeah. I guess I wanted to ask you about erotic relationships, insofar as don't worry, I'm not going to embarrass either of us here, but every
why not?
every erotic relationship I've had that was truly erotic, I felt the presence of a secret room inside the woman that I could never gain access to.
And what do you think it's full of?
Well, that's the thing. I never gained access to it, and I think when I did gain access to it, the relationship changed.
And don't let anybody into your secret room.
Well, that's the thing, and I wanted to know if that's a young person's fascination with mystery, or for someone your age, if that still exists as something that ignites passion and eroticism, the idea of a secret room that you can't access.
So, sex lives of people over 80.
No, I don't mean that, and I just meant as you've gotten older.
As I've gotten older. Well, everything is very age specific, okay? And it is for everybody. So 60 is not the same as 80. I wrote a hilarious story when I was probably 17 or 18. It's very funny to me now. So it's about this old, decrepit, dried up, really past it, dusty, no hope left woman, and she's 40. Which, of course, when you're 17, seems like the end of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you're 80, seems very youthful.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of where you are on that continuum. I don't know. I think there are a lot of things that are a lot more important as you get a bit older. And one of them is shared experience, mutual understanding, companionship, having fun. I think sex is very important when you're quite young.
Yeah.
But it becomes, or as I say to young people, okay, you're 17, you think this is a tragedy, this awful thing that has happened, somebody broke up with you, you're very heartbroken, you're Juliet in Romeo and Juliet, you're going to kill yourself. When you're 40, you'll think this is funny.
Yeah.
And when you're 70, you won't be able to remember that person's name
Right.
like that. But these are very intense experiences at the time. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a human race, right?
The most intense at the time, yeah, and causes the most immense pain. When you're in your 20s or your 30s, I think, and probably in your 40s and in your 50s too.
Oh, relax. You're only 38. It
Yeah,
gets better.
I'm not old, am I,
Remember,
Margaret?
no, you're not. No, not at all.
Okay.
You're just a child.
Am I? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
sorry. Uh,
I don't mind
well,
that at
why am I
all.
saying sorry? You're enjoying yourself. Um, yeah, so when you turn 40, you will probably feel a bit more relaxed. And when you turn 60, you'll be having a much better time.
Did you find your life went that way, that you got happier as you got older?
I did. Yeah. Part of it is you know more of the plot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's less anxiety about how things are going to turn out in a certain respect. I mean, there's still, of course, the usual catastrophes, tragedies, people die, and things like that. But um, you're not in the position of being 18 and wondering whatever will you make of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
You already kind of know a bit of it.
Um, I want to end with asking you a series of banal questions, but they're not banal. I'm really interested in them, but they're things like, what are your favorite movies? But I
Oh,
really
yeah.
want to know them. So, the first one, can you name me your top 3 favorite movies?
Let's go Night of the Hunter.
Okay.
I have a lot of favorite movies. So I think that's Robert Mitchum's best role. And again, it's a movie. I wrote a piece on it once upon a time. So I read the book and I thought, surely they made some of this stuff up for the movie, but no, it's in the book. And the other beautiful thing about that movie is it was Charles Laughton who directed it. I think it was the only movie he ever directed. And he was a painting collector. So if you look at each one of those shots, you'll see that it's framed like a painting, just very beautifully positioned, the people, the figures in it. He just had a very painterly eye for how he was shooting it. But also, I just it's very bizarre. I don't like the twinkly people in the stars right at the beginning, but apart from that, it's great and very suggestive. It has a lot of layers. Now, what else? Where shall we go to next? Let me see. There's really quite a range. Certainly, something Graham wanted to see again was the Seventh Seal,
Oh, yeah, I love
which
The
made a
Seventh Seal.
big impression on our generation when it first hit the theaters. And since the Black Death, as you might imagine, being a fellow Scorpio, is one of my interests,
And it has
always
one
been
of the
pretty
most
interested in it.
famous shots of all time, which is death over, or sorry, the arms at the end, or the people intermingled at the top of the mountain.
Oh, the
The
dance of death
the
with
dance of
the
death,
scythe.
which
Yeah,
I've always remembered. Great
yeah,
choice. I agree.
yes.
That's in my top 10 anyway.
Okay. You didn't say anything about Night of the Hunter. You don't like it?
I've never seen it.
What?
I've never
What?
seen Night
What?
of the
What?
Hunter.
What?
I've seen a
Time
lot of
for you to do
movies.
that.
I will.
Okay. Uh, let's see. Let's pick something jolly, just for fun. And I saw a lot of it because it was a favorite at little girls' birthday parties when I had a little girl. So that would be Singing in the Rain, which has got one of the best continuous dance numbers. That would be Make 'Em Laugh. He did that all in one shot. A lot of tap dancing in it, which I like because I used to be a tap dancer. How about that?
You used to be a tap dancer?
Oh, I did.
And a puppeteer.
Yes, well, these were youthful pursuits. Yes, we had a little business in high school of puppet shows. We got paid for them. We even ended up with an agent, but we only ever did them for 5-year-olds, that age group. And we only ever did count the numbers. There were 2 of us, so that meant we could have 4 active figures on stage at a time and 1 on a stick if you were really stuck. So they were all 4 or 3 or 2 characters on stage at once. So it would be the 3 little pigs, 3 pigs, 1 wolf. It would be Little Red Riding Hood, 1 Riding Hood, 1 wolf, 1 grandmother, and 1 woodcutter, and at the beginning, 1 mother. And Hansel and Gretel, 2 parents, 1 Hansel, 1 Gretel, 1 witch, like that. And you'll notice they're all about cannibalism, which is what little kids are pretty interested in. I'm going to eat you up. Yes. So what is the moral of that? You can make anything talk.
Elaborate
Hello,
on
Jesse.
that. Oh.
Hello, Jesse. Waving at you right here. Hello.
My next question is, I'm going to name 4 writers. Can you give me a sentence on each one?
This is dangerous. Are they dead?
Yes.
You don't know.
No, they are. They are.
Well, they're still going to hear me. So I don't like messing with my opinions of writers.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you prefer we skip that one?
Well, let's hear who they are.
Raymond Carver.
Go on.
Philip Roth.
Yeah.
Alice Munro.
Yeah.
Virginia Woolf.
Okay. These are your faves?
Nope, not necessarily. They're just the ones I'm really interested in your opinions on.
Yeah, Ellis isn't dead yet.
Yeah, sorry. I added Alice Munro in at the last second. I'm going to edit that part out, just so you know.
You were grasping around for a female person. Yes, well, Ellis is a very old friend.
Okay.
And I've written a couple of introductions to her books. Back in the day, I found her an agent, and she and the agent were very close for many years. The agent's name was Virginia Barber, no longer with us, alas. And I wrote a great big long piece on lives of girls and women for the Cambridge book of essays on Alice Munro. So from that, you can gather that I have a high opinion of her. Who else? Virginia Woolf. I wrote a piece on To the Lighthouse a while ago, I think, as an example of how your opinion of a book can change as you grow older and see it from a different perspective. So I don't think I really got it when I first read it. But then later on, I did. And that can happen a lot in your reading life.
I've read To the Lighthouse twice, and I find it in parts stunning, but I don't think I understand it yet. I don't think I'm old enough to read it.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
Go back to it in about 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, then let me see. Philip Roth and Raymond Carver, there's a bit outside my wheelhouse.
Okay.
I certainly am of an age to have seen Philip Roth emerge as a really young writer. And of course, what really shoved him up the ladder was The Graduate, the movie. Also did wonders for Dustin Hoffman. And I think he's a very astute observer of certain kinds of his times. A certain slice of his time. So he would be in the War and Peace tradition. writing about observed social reality from his perspective, although he ventures outside it from time to time, a what if book about what if the fascists had taken over America. Oddly prescient. And Raymond Carver, probably a descendant of Hemingway in a certain respect. I think In Our Times is brilliant, just for the record. Maybe one of Hemingway's best books. What else can I say about that?
I wanted to know if you've ever read.
Some people, they're good, but you don't know much what to say about them.
Yeah. Raymond Carver, I wanted to ask the most because he was one of my main influences. He was one of the first books that was shown to me as like, this is real. And I got it immediately. Because it was subtle, it was realism. I read him before I read Hemingway. And he's a big influence of mine. And I was just very curious. My last question is, so you've obviously had a pretty fantastic career. You've had
with its ups and downs. It's had ups and downs.
Okay.
Okay, everybody does.
Sure.
Ups and then downs and then ups and then downs. So Stephen Marsh has this little pamphlet called On Failure, which is about writers failing. And we all do from time to time. Just letting you know that. I'll tell you about the books I wrote that were so awful I couldn't finish them.
Really? Do you feel that about some of your books?
I know that about some of my books.
Really?
I did not complete writing them because they weren't working.
Right. Okay. And again, this is just an outward observation. You've had a long, long love in your life who was Graham Gibson. You've had a child. Is there anything this life hasn't given you, not that you wanted, but that you needed?
No.
That's lovely.
Oh, yeah, but the secret to that is low expectations. So high aspirations, but low expectations. So people of my generation did not expect anything resembling success. It wasn't available to us when we were starting out. Nobody thought they could be a commercially successful writer. We all thought we would have to have other jobs. And we did have other jobs. And none of us thought we were going to have disposable incomes. And we certainly didn't when we were starting out. Let me tell you about rooming houses and craft dinner. So we didn't have high expectations because those things did not seem to be available to us. And the age of being able to support yourself writing short stories for American glossies, that like Morley Callahan, that was rapidly shrinking at that time. And anyway, none of us had agents. We didn't know how any of this worked. There had been a sort of writing trajectory in the 30s. Then the war just toasted everything. It just stopped. Things just stopped. And there were a couple of huge post-war successes, the Tin Flute being one of them, because of book clubs in America. If you could get into a book club in America, then that was a big success. But hardly anybody did that, and we didn't even know about that because that happened in the 40s and we were in the 50s and early 60s. There was no paperback industry in Canada, which meant that books got published in hardback if you could get a book good for you, but it didn't then go on to be sold to a paperback outfit, which is how the American publishers were making their profits in those days. Paperback started in the UK. They were pocketbooks, and then that was Simon & Schuster in the States, or Penguin in the UK and pocketbooks in the States, but they're just were no paperback outfits in Canada yet. Came along a little bit later. But it meant that a book didn't have a life. It would be published in hardback, and then it would stop. It didn't have a continuing life. So we just didn't have, we were in it for the art. We thought we were all going to go to France and smoke gitane and drink absinthe and die of TB. We didn't have, I am going to be a big writer with
Right.
a six-figure advance. We didn't think that way at all. So anything else was gravy. It was extra. Nobody thought that it was much more like La Boheme. You could burn your manuscript in the fireplace because you can't pay the heating bill. Much more like that.
This was such a great interview, Margaret. Thank you so much for being on my show. I really appreciate it.
And you are very welcome. And thank you, Kraft Dinner, for keeping me alive in my in my little rooming house rooms with one burner hot plates.
Is there anything you'd like to say to my audience?
Well, I don't know who your audience is. Who are they?
Strange people, I imagine.
Do you think they're young? Do you think they're old? Do you think
my listenership so far is about 35 to 60.
Okay. So they're readers.
And mostly in the United States.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And do you know what parts of United States?
Yeah, all over. It's very strange. And I just got some listeners from Japan and Peru the other day.
Wow. That's amazing.
So things are moving along, and this interview this is my third episode, and I got you. Okay. So I'm grateful. This has been a good day.
So tell me, you're a friend of Barbara Gowdy's?
I'm a friend of Barbara Gowdy's, yeah.
She's terrific. She's very funny. You know her classic line, live on television.
No.
You may not know the story. Okay, Barbara, she's always looked about 12. And she looked even more 12 on that day. And she had this little mini skirt, and she looked like this sort of vapid Barbie-like child. And she was on a book review program. It's actually Daniel Richler's program. And she had been given this great big tome to review. And the guy said, why did they give you this book to review? In other words, you airhead. And she said, well, she said, it's because I've got this great big brain tucked up underneath my skirt.
It's a very good line.
Yeah, she's full of good lines. She's very funny.
I love Barbara Gowdy. She's
so have you interviewed her on your show?
Yeah, she was you haven't listened to my show before,
Not
Margaret.
yet, but I will now.
She was the episode she was the episode before you.
Okay, was she funny?
She was fantastic. She's always fantastic. I've known her for years, and she's
How come you know her?
I met her at a funeral, actually.
Extremely Scorpio.
I met her at a funeral, and she, when my first book came out, she gave me a really
great, I saw that.
A great blurb, and
so whose funeral was that?
Jackie Burroughs.
You are kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. You knew Jackie Burroughs.
I know Jackie Burroughs.
I knew Jackie Burroughs. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie was great too.
If you don't mind me asking, what neighborhood do you live in Toronto?
I live in a place that used to be quite a slum when we moved into it. It had cults, rooming houses, and call girls. And now it's been gentrified, but that's taken place over since 1985.
Okay.
And before that, we lived in Chinatown.
I lived in Chinatown for years.
And before that, what street did you live on?
Denison.
Okay. And before that, we lived on a farm for 10 years. In
Alliston.
It was 20 miles from Alliston. Yes, I had to learn to drive when we lived there because the dog bit Graham. He was out trying to snip it out of a wire fence, and of course dogs will take hold of anything, and that happened to be Graham's head. And it was an Irish wolfhound, which was taller than him. So he had to drive himself to the hospital, bleeding from the neck. And I thought, okay, I need to learn to drive. So I did.
Was he okay?
Evidently. Évidemment. Yes. But by this much, another inch or so, and that would have been it.
What are you going to do for the rest of your day?
My day?
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do? I'm going to tweak my Substack payment model, which
Okay.
I just set up last night. And I'm going to continue writing a short story I'm writing. I'm going to work on my guest list for our Pelee Island Bird Observatory fundraiser, which takes place on October 3. I'll send you an invitation. You can contribute to it.
Absolutely, I will.
Since I just gave you a freebie interview.
Absolutely.
And you can come to it. You can be a warm body and meet strange people.
I'd love that.
Okay, do that.
Okay.
You will meet some odd people.
Okay.
What am I saying?
I'm there.
You'll meet some people who are publishers and also some people who are bird lovers. And sometimes the same people, but not always. And it's going to be at Charlie Pachter's Museum on Grange Avenue, which is right down the street from where I lived when we lived in Chinatown on Sullivan Street.
Okay.
Okay, you know where that is.
Yeah.
So Charlie's built this ginormous building right in the middle of Chinatown. So that's where we're having the event. And let me make a note to send you the invite. Yes, I'm giving people two options. They can attend in person and get a certificate that I will design saying they were there, or they can be there in spirit and get a different certificate saying they were there in spirit.
When is it again?
October the 3rd, which is a Tuesday.
Well, I'm there. Absolutely.
You're there.
I'm there.
Great.
And
okay.
Now, at the beginning of this interview, you promised me a signed copy of your new book. So can I have that? Will you send that to me?
You can bring it to that event, or you can send it to Lucia, one or the other, depends how soon you want it.
I'll just bring it to the event.
Either one. Yeah, perfect. Okay,
right.
You're on.
Margaret, have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for being on the show. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Now, you're supposed to send me the link.
Oh, to the show?
Yes.
When it goes up, I will. It won't be up for a couple of days.
Okay, so when it's up, send me the link. I'll put it out there.
Oh, thank you so much.
And what we should do is take a screenshot. I will take a screenshot right now. Put your head in a smiley position. Then I can put it on Instagram. I'm so technically savvy. Ooh. It's going to be a picture of me holding the camera, smiling with Jessie. Okay, let me just see how these came out. That one's good. That one's good. Perfect. Okay. When we put the show up, I will have this picture and I will put it on.
Fantastic.
Okay. You're looking good. See?
Oh, not bad. So are you. All right. That's great. Okay.
You should do that with each of your guests.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I will.
And you can always take the screenshot from your end too,
Yeah. Okay.
You can do that.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to send you this.
All right, please do.
I'm going to send you the picture.
All right.
You can use that in your self-promotion advertising, Jesse.
Well, that's what I'm going to be doing.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.